policies in place, and Secretary de la Peña mentioned the Startup Act. I was next to me in the plane was the head of a startup actually, and when I asked him, so what is the one point that I should bring to Secretary de la Peña? It's a Filipino, I think, pretty successful startup, and he said financing is one of his biggest concerns. And I said, so what exactly is it? Because I read about all these different laws. And he said, yes, but the red tape to actually access financing is too heavy. This is not something that is only the case in the Philippines. In the European Union, which I know quite well, to access $1 of R&D, you have to, finance R&D incentive, you have to fill out 30 pages of paper. If you could maybe leapfrog as the Philippines and avoid some red tape to actually improve that access to finance, that is probably a good idea. Of course, we have to talk intellectual property a little bit, and I know Andrew will do this more than me. We know, of course, that a lot of the strong rankings in the Philippines are due to the strong assembly function in the ICT, global ICT sector. Okay? Now, some economists will say, well, this is just because foreign high-tech input comes in and there's assembly. It doesn't mean anything in terms of the domestic innovation capacity. I tend to disagree. Most countries that I go to that have moved up the value ladder, they are either small port nations, right? Small hubs in Asia, for instance. But for the most part, they are countries that have a strong manufacturing and assembly role, a strong learning experience through that role, absorption of foreign knowledge, and then creation of domestic innovation capacity. So I think that the Philippines is extremely well placed in this regard, and I hope that you can benefit from that high-tech role. IP in that context, I would say, has to be taken even more seriously. I know it already is. I was really pleased to see that in the innovation law, intellectual property is actually mentioned. You would be surprised. In most countries, it is not. Okay? In most countries, even France or like high-tech powerhouses, IP is usually forgotten. Still, in terms of uptake, the actual use of intellectual property, patents, PCT, there is probably a lot of potential to do a little bit more. Okay, so now let me conclude with some policy recommendations or observations. And of course, I'm new to the Philippines. You know the Philippines much better than I do. What I can offer is some bird-eye view from the distance, having been to all these different countries. And I'm probably wrong on some things, but and then you can correct me, please do. I think the important thing is that when you want to be in the third basket of countries, right? Remember the ones that just have a quick glance at the rankings, the one that take it more seriously, but then the ones that, what you do is you have working meetings with innovation stakeholders and focus groups. First day is with high-level decision makers such as yourselves. That's almost done. We've ticked that box. Tomorrow is a more public meeting where actually the secretary, the prime minister, the president, etc., really make a commitment to their GI ranking in terms of moving up. And this is only then the start of more deeper meetings where we actually set targets and we evaluate those targets over time. There's data improvements. That's a third big element, right? Remember those education statistics I was talking about? And then finally, of course, there's application over time. And with over time, I don't mean the next 2 or 3 months. I mean really, here I put 5 years, that is a bit ambitious, but maybe 2 or 3 years really, right? Where Andrew and me, and we don't make this offer in every country, but really let's try almost on a monthly basis to touch base, and we will be here to answer your queries and to assist. Let's not treat this as a mathematical exercise, right? There's some countries, I will not name them, but in particular in the Middle East, who treat the GII just simply as a mathematical thing, which you can game to actually go up the ranking and that's it, right? That's not what it's all about. The GII ranking, and I'm the editor of this, but still I would say it's largely meaningless in terms of the actual improvement of livelihoods on the ground, right? You can have it, there's countries that go up in the GII, but maybe there's nothing really in terms of improvement on the ground. If you have the choice between real improvement and a higher GII ranking, I would go for the real improvement, right? So let's not treat this as a data exercise only. In terms of a few concluding observations, there are some few common usual errors in other countries which at the moment do not seem to be the case in the Philippines if you look at the law. First, of course, is not